Welcome, everyone, to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday Night Creator Convo. I'm Noel Marshall, and I'm here with my beloved.
Good evening, everyone. Bob Warner here. Phil, thank you so much for coming back and spending more time with us. We enjoyed your earlier time with our community here. And everyone, you're in for a real treat this evening, whether you're live here, live on Facebook, or live and watching the recording on our co-creatorsconvergence.com archives. So thank you so much for being here this evening.
Yes, so we are going to learn tonight. Phil is going to be talking about revelations of the Cosmic Keylontic Krystos. And hopefully I have pronounced that all correctly. And
Yeah,
how'd I do, Phil?
you did great. I wanted to give a more positive slant to KKK, to the KKK. That's why I called this the Cosmic with a K, Keylontic Krystos with the K.
Wonderful.
Just a more positive association with the KKK.
Very good. Bring it on. We're all about positivity here.
Redefine and reframe, huh?
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence, and then we'll come back and do a little more formal introduction of our guest, Phil Gruber. And then it'll be over to you, Phil. Okay, so please stand by. So how about that? I'm going to be taking November and December off. So we'll be back fresh in 2025. And, Phil, before I introduce you, Bob has offered to do a centering for us. And I think it's a beautiful ritual. So, Bob, if you'd like to, I'll need you to speak louder.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Noel. Excuse me. So as we gather in our circle this evening, this co-creative circle, this cosmic KKK circle, I would invite all to just take a deep breath. Lots going on in the world, lots going on in our country, lots going on in our communities and our households. So I invite all of us to take a deep breath and exhale, breathe in peace, and breathe out love. And if you want to close your eyes or drop your gaze and consider in your mind's eye as we sit around a common flame, a campfire, a flame of a candle, and imagine in your mind's eye that is where we as a community of this moment, sit. And as we gaze at the flame before all of us, we imagine all the mysteries, all the wisdoms, all the stories that have come before this moment. Remembering now that when we light a fire such as this, it is the same fire lit around the world and throughout time. This flame, in fact, connects us to all of the mysteries of the past, the mysteries of the present, of which there are so many, and the mysteries of the future, all unknown to us. As we greet this elemental fire, we recognize its masculine energy, the hot fire of the sun. And we recognize the fire's feminine energy, the cool fire of the moon. This fire, this flame dancing on the fire before us, is the witness of our gathering and a mirror of the divine spark within, our internal flame. As we sit together, we work in the light of this flame as the eternal flame supporting us in our collective becoming and our illumination. Looking forward to this evening, to the illumination that Phil brings to us. So with that, I invite you to take one more deep breath in, one more deep breath out, and let's be together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Very, very beautiful. I love that meditation. So thank you. And now we welcome Mr. Phil Gruber.
Oh, no,
Are you
that
just
was lovely,
returning
Bob.
now?
It's it's early in the morning for me here at 8 o'clock, 8:08 here in lovely, relentlessly hot and humid Singapore. Thanks for having me back. And it's our last for this year. So I want to make this one a doozy.
All right. Well, let me tell them a little bit about Phil Gruber. Doesn't need much introduction. His passion, enthusiasm, kind spirit, sparkling wit. I love having Phil here. And intelligence has made him a much loved, respected, and in-demand speaker worldwide. And you can find him at http://mostseminars.com, MOST seminars.com. And I'll put that in the chat. And Phil, welcome back. And we're very curious about your title. And always with Phil, it's like turning on the fire hydrant. Just step back. Everything will happen. So Phil, I'm going to turn the magic talking stick over to you. Bob and I are here the whole time. And
Right.
we are going to enjoy our time together. So you ready to go, Phil?
I'm ready to go.
All right, here you go, my friend.
I was born ready. They told my mother on the way to the hospital just not to uncross her legs. I couldn't wait to get into this world, you know. Barbara was one of the greatest lights I've met in this life. I had the pleasure of meeting her. I guess it was probably 2006
Mm.
through Jimmy James Twyman. I think it was in 2006, and Barbara, was just amazing. And it's so great that this is the co-creators convergence, because I think the whole idea of the evolutionary path of human consciousness is to be conscious co-creators with source. So it's very appropriate. So I thought what we would do on this occasion of also of the Hindu Festival of Lights, which symbolizes the triumph of light over darkness, to talk a little bit about our history and past as prelude also. I know that we hear that expression, study our past, this and that. Well, since it's all happening simultaneously, I thought I'd go back to the very, very beginning. Now, first, I want to say that I'm going to quote freely from my former wife, Eaisha, as she's known now. Basically, she gave me everything. And now I'll leave it there. Okay? So, throughout human evolution, there are interdimensional races brought teachings to Earth. Why? In order to influence and direct the course of Earth and human evolution. Now, we're going to start by talking about three primary interdimensional visitor races that were involved with pre-ancient human culture. Now, these were the Emerald Order we know is the Elohai, the Amethyst order, the Braharama, and the Gold order called the Seraphai. Now, these are Branau collectives from densities 4 and 5. And by densities 4 and 5, I mean dimensions, density 4, for example, dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And density 5, we know is dimensions 13 and 14 and 15. We look at cosmic structure, basically, we look at something called a time matrix, which is a 15-dimensional construct. Now, this is our perspective, and I'll talk about who we are a little bit later. This is a 15-dimensional construct where you have 15 dimensions grouped into 5 harmonic universes, 5 3-dimensional universes. Harmonic universe 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Harmonic universe 1, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. Harmonic universe 2, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. 7, 8, and 9. 10, 11, 12. 13, and 14, and 15. We're talking about 3 founders races that we call the Branau, or orders of the Branau, or Rishi. This also includes the Ra collective, which I believe it was a 14th dimensional collective of, this is antimatter, pure consciousness as living light, pure radiance, pure waveform consciousness. Now, these 3 founders races of the Emerald Order, the Amethyst Order, and the Gold Order, these Branau orders that seeded life into our particular time matrix during its I find this very interesting that they talk about the last seeding, the most recent seeding of life into our time matrix 950 billion years ago in terms of Earth time. So we're talking here about 950, Carl Sagan would have loved this, 950 billion year cycles. Who knows how many cycles of 950 billion years that have been? And this is the breathing rhythm of the cosmos. These are the breaths of the Great Mother. Right now, I think she's held her breath long enough, and she's about to take another exhalation, a new creation. So this is what's happening now on the planet. We can get into that a little bit later. We are in the midst of changes so significant, so profound, where it's a critical juncture here in the evolutionary path of human consciousness. And although they may have detected some of the background radiation of what they call the Big Bang, we're talking about cycles of 950 billion years. Now, these Branau orders, they've visited humanity during different time periods. Why? In an attempt to keep the history of humanity's original creation contract and our intended evolutionary destiny alive within the Earth human races. And this original co-evolution agreement made between these races of the Branau in seeding our time matrix 950 billion years ago was something that it's going to spark something called the Emerald Covenant. The Emerald Covenant. Now, this original Emerald Covenant, again, was made 950 billion years ago among these density 5, 13, 14, 15 dimensional collectives or gestalts 950 billion years ago. And in this agreement, these Branau orders agreed to create various founders races to seed life into all the density levels of our time matrix. Why? To create peaceful coevolution and the potential for ascension for all their races, all their stellar races. And it was also these density 5 Branau orders that were directly involved with the creation of the original angelic human race, the original angelic human lineage on a planet that we know is Tara in the fifth dimension, in the second density, about 560 million years ago. Now, this Emerald Covenant, by the way, this is what I believe the Wizard of Oz was all about. Dorothy, Theodora, Dorothea, gift of God. You know, it's no mystery now that L. Frank Baum, the author of the original 14 Oz books, interesting 14 Oz books, 14 rare earth elements, 14 stations of the cross. And I do believe in my heart of hearts that the stations of the cross, I don't believe you go through 14 stages of spiritual development to be, at the end of it, to be nailed to the cross. I would rather like to believe that after 14 stages of spiritual development, you get taken off the cross of space, time, and matter. That's an interesting possibility. But this Emerald Covenant, in 1892, L. Frank Baum, the author of the Oz books, and his wife were initiated into the Ramayana sect of the Theosophical Society 8 years before I wrote The Wizard of Oz. And I know there are a lot of interpretations of The Wizard of Oz, but if you look at The Wizard of Oz through a theosophical filter, it's deep. It's really, really deep. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of the most interesting things to me is that in the book, they're not ruby slippers. The slippers aren't ruby. The slippers aren't ruby, they're silver. And there's a reason that they're silver, and I'll definitely talk about that a little bit later. But this Emerald Covenant has been restated. Now, this again, this is submitted not for your, like Rod Serling, not for your approval. You know, remember the Twilight Zone? Submitted for your, this is submitted for your consideration. You know, this Emerald Covenant was restated several times. It was restated 248,000 years ago. So you want to know where this information is sourced? Here it is. 248,000 years ago, the density 4, that's dimensions 10, 11, and 12, we can call that the Christos, avatars, Buddhas, bodhisattvas. Dimensions 10, 11, and 12 in our paradigm are dimensions of liquid light, liquid crystal, liquid silica, pre-matter, hydroplasm, a race called the Lyrian Anuhazi. Oh, we have one right here. Compliments of April Dyke. Actually, it's D-Y-C-K is actually pronounced Dick, like Dick Van Dyke, but it just wouldn't have gone over Dick Van Dyke. It's actually pronounced Dick. But April Dyke, she made this for me. This is one of the Lyran Syrian Anuhasi, one of our founders races, Leonine, cat-like founders races. Isn't this cool? Anyway. So the Emerald Covenant was restated 248,000 years ago by the density 4, Lyran Anuhazi, and the densities 2 and 3. These are angels, archangels, souls, oversoul collectives, Syrian Azurites, Syrian Blues, Sirius B Blues, on behalf, again, of these density 5 Branau orders. They presented a gift to the Earth human guardian races that honored this Emerald Covenant. The gift was a massive library of information that detailed not only the history of our time matrix, we're talking about 950 billion years of history, creation physics, the mechanics of operating the stargates on the planet, the interplanetary Templar complex, it's called. This gift existed. Now, this was given to us 248,000 years ago as a set of 12 small holographic recording discs. These discs have come to be known as the CDT plates, the Cloister Dora-Teura, or the Eternal Dora-Teura plates. Along with them was a corresponding set of 12 larger discs called the Signet Shields. that were frequency generation devices through which the 12 primary stargates of the interplanetary Templar complex could be accessed. Now, it's been said that the original purpose for our creation was to act as guardians, custodians of the planetary stargates, what's called the Templar in many traditions, because it is through the Earth stargates that you can access the interdimensional stargates. And there are those of us that have come here on certain soul contracts to act as flame holders. I will talk about that later. Flame holders, flame keepers, placeholders. And we have a lot of information on that because I know there are a lot of people out there that know they're here for a reason. They haven't quite been able to access what those specifics are. But of course, a lot of us know that we're here for a reason. And when we hear more about these soul contracts, we can understand on a much more deeper level why we've chosen this particular time, this particular space, place, planet to incarnate or to come to act as guardians, custodians, to act as healers, way showers, to act as revealing vehicles for the grace of God, not just to come through us into the world. These 12 Dora-Teura plates is the source of all higher knowledge. And actually, H.G. Wells, I think, must have known about them because if you do a search on YouTube, remember the 1960 was a really interesting year for movies. Remember the movie The Time Machine with Rod Taylor and Yvette Mimieux? Remember that? 1960? In that movie, she's one of the Eloi, interestingly enough. She takes him into this room where all these books, they're just ancient books, turn into powder. There are these weird looking devices, but she introduces him to the talking rings. These are rings that you spin and you get these audio downloads of Earth's history. So H.G. Wells, initiate that he was, must have had some knowledge of these Dora-Teura plates. And that's is where this knowledge, and we believe all higher knowledge comes from the Dora-Teura plates. Also in 1960 was a movie called Atlantis, the Lost Continent. I think it was 1960, which is really interesting because this is 1960. In that movie, you actually see the Atlantean priest slash scientist hybridizing men and animals. A lot of that movie was based on Plato's writings. But the 1960 was the movie I was going to show the other night, Horror Hotel, in one of my movie nights. So that was in 1960 also. 1960 was a really interesting year for movies. But let's talk about the original human design. Now, the original human design itself is of extraterrestrial or angelic nature, in that humans originally inhabited the second density, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, time fields of Earth, where Earth is called Tara. There is a fifth dimensional version of Earth, we believe, that is called Tara. Some people call it heaven. There's also an eighth dimensional version of Earth that we know is Gaia. Gaia, of course, can represent the Earth as we know it, or a feminine aspect of the Earth, or the Earth body. But also Gaia is also known as an eighth dimensional version of Earth, where the Taran, original human, is called the Turanusium. That's one of the names of the original human race, the Turanusium. So Earth humanity's stellar genetic heritage can be found in the DNA in what we call the substrand matrices. They're minute electrotonal or electrical sound frequency. They're scalar standing wave templates that make up the blueprint for human DNA. Now, in the Earth human lineage, known to many as the Adam Kadmon or the Adumi Kudman, there were 7 root races, 5 cloister races, what we call the cloister races, were seeded. 7 root races were in the latter days now of the Aryan root race, certainly a race of masters, not the master race but certainly a race of masters. And we're entering into the final two root race cycles. Some call this the Paradisians, Melchizedeks, names I can't even pronounce. Melchizedek is an interesting word. Well, the word meek in the Bible, there's no direct translation in the Proto-Aramaic Canaanite for the word meek. I believe meek is an acronym, me-ek, Melchizedek. So the Melchizedeks, the earth uh, is our inheritance, is our legacy, because we are members of these final root races, and this includes the indigos also. That the earth is our inheritance, because we are members of the two final root races coming to complete our whole original genetic blueprint. 7 root races, 5 cloister races were seeded. Each of these root race evolution cycles developed one of the first 5 strands of DNA within the 12-strand DNA template. The cloister races, of which the indigos, of which I think we were all indigos, we carry the 7th through the 12th DNA strand template, and that corresponds to the higher dimensional density systems. Root race incarnates, we know them as earth seeds, and the cloister race incarnates, which I believe is everyone tuned in to the program now, or will be. The cloister race incarnates are known as star seeds. And it is the cloister races, these waves of indigo certainly, that are keeping the 12-strand DNA template potentials alive within the Earth human gene pool. And we do represent the advanced stages of human evolution. Now, I know at the time of the Christ 2,000 years ago, there was an attempt to bring that 12-strand pattern. You see, every time we incarnate on the planet, we have to pass through the Earth's core, through the flame, the sphere of Amenti, and then through one of the Earth stargates. We'll talk about that in a minute. Well, when we incarnate, we leave imprints of our DNA at the Earth's core. That part of Christ's mission may not have been fully successful, which necessitated the waves of indigos coming in. And as we come in and leave imprints of our DNA at the Earth's core before we come into incarnation, we leave imprints of our DNA, at least that 12 strand. There are incarnates here on the planet that have even higher potentials than the 12 strand that we'll probably talk about at some future talk, maybe sometime in 2025. You know, the indigos didn't come in, they began to be noticed in the 70s. But waves were coming in before then. And the reason that psychics and clairvoyants were noticing indigos, that preponderance of the indigo in the aura, that really signified that the 6th strand was partially active in these children from birth. And the dimension, the capstone, the primary wavelength associated with the 6th dimension is indigo color. So all this indigo in their fields, primarily mainly of children. Why? Their life force, their youth, their just sheer life force made the colors stronger. But we've been coming in, and I say indigos, we've been known by many, many names. Indigos, psychic children, super psychic children, mythic, magic, mystical children, children of the blue ray, children of the blue ray Kachina, Melchizedeks, Paradisians, sons and daughters of God, B'nai Or, B'nai Elohim. The fact is, there are certain primary levels of indigos, but we've been coming in for a long time. And now I believe that enough of us have come in to incarnation that all incoming souls, not only all incoming souls, but everybody on the planet has that 12-strand capability now that maybe wasn't possible 2,000 years ago, but certainly is now. And I also believe that a lot of us, since we're nearing the 1111, I have an interpretation of the 1111. I believe, well, personally, and maybe this will strike a chord with some of you, there is 11th dimensional Lyra that we'll talk about in a little while. Used to be known as a planet called Avion, AVE Avion, 11th dimensional layer. Now, the 10th, again, the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensions are dimensions of prematter hydroplasmic liquid light, the true biology of the avatars as we know them, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, is prematter hydroplasmic liquid light, liquid crystal, liquid silica. Really beautiful. And that place Avion, because of misspelling down through the centuries, has come to be known as Avalon. The mists of Avalon are the liquid light dimensions of dimensions 10, 11, and 12. The cradle of Lyra is the cosmic nursery from which we all have common beginnings. And the truth is that the healing of humanity is going to come. It's only going to come when we understand the true common core of creation from which we all emerged. There were races that have forgotten that for various reasons. We come back to help all of humanity, not just all of humanity, all the races that have gone into digression, corruption, because of decisions they made to hybridize with other races without regard of their, without respecting their sovereignty or inbreeding. You see what happens on the planet here, a few generations of inbreeding, you know, blah, 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 you imagine millions of years of inbreeding. Well, a lot of their DNA is kind of just in reverse and not functioning properly. And that's a matter of them forgetting who they are, forgetting their internal, intrinsic, indelible, eternal connection to source. We're here for various reasons. One is to remind those that have forgotten. So I believe that me personally, and many of us, maybe this will strike a chord with you, come from 11th dimensional Lyra. And it's really interesting that I just came back from Glastonbury, which is the reflection on this planet of 11th dimensional Lyra or Avalon, the mists of Avalon. Again, it's beautiful. Starting from the 11th dimension in this particular incarnation, cycling our conscious, projecting through certain interdimensional, interstellar stargates. To come into incarnation here in that first cell, you have got to come through the core of the earth first. All planets, all suns at their cores have stargates, which are simply set, well, not simply, but set to black and white holes, black and white hole vortices. All planets, all suns have at their core stargates. And the stargates are sets of black and white holes. You go in the magnetic black hole, out the electrical white hole. In the next magnetic black hole, out the electrical white hole. This is how consciousness, you can take this, you can take the scenic tour if you want, light speed, but this is how you get from one place to another. And Janet's exactly right. In many teachings, it is the heart. It is the heart of the planet. Glastonbury is a very special place. Interestingly enough, just speaking personally, it's one of the only places on the planet, maybe the only place, it's really a place that I feel at home. I don't feel at home much of this world. Many of us have that same kind of feeling, but in Glastonbury Abbey, we just had through Portal to Ascension, we had a wonderful weekend conference in Glastonbury. That was just beautiful. And I almost didn't go. Even the days leading up to leaving Singapore, I wasn't feeling well. I had this kind of bronchial thing that a lot of us are feeling right now for various reasons. But I started to get better a few days before my departure. And even though I wasn't feeling, and even in the departure lounge, I was still on the fence about whether I should go or not. But you know what tipped the scales? My narcissistic need for attention, I guess. So I had to go. So and it was great. I had a great weekend, but even after the weekend, I started to get sick again. But it was a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We had a wonderful time. I believe that in this present incarnation, I've come from the future. You know, it's important to understand that what takes place in the higher dimensions actually happens in our future. So looking at that, looking at it from that perspective, the angels are our future. They are our future selves. If you've incarnated here, see, a lot of people I think are confusing or conflating simultaneous lives with past lives. Now it's another conversation, but the higher, take the Brenau, take these collectives of living light, pure waveform consciousness in the fifth density, dimension 13 to 14 and 15. Stair-step creation works whereby these huge gestalts, these consciousness collectives, they subdivide within themselves, creating smaller versions of themselves that they send to the next lower harmonic universe. So the Brenau, the Rishi, subdivide within themselves, project 12 parts of themselves into the next lower universe, harmonic universe 4, something we call avatars. Each of these 12 avatars are part of a larger collective called a Rishi, or one of these Brenau. Now, the avatars themselves subdivide and create 12, they subdivide, create 12 smaller portions of themselves. They project down to the next lower harmonic universe as something we call oversouls or archangelics. 12 archangelics are part of a larger collective called an avatar. It's a larger and larger families like the Russian dolls, right? This could be the Rishi. The Rishi subdivides into 12 smaller portions of itself. The avatars subdivide into 12 smaller portions of itself. The archangelics or the oversouls also subdivide within themselves, creating 12 smaller portions we know as souls or angelics. The angelics subdivide and they create 12 incarnates in our universe. So everyone watching this or will be listening to this, you and 11 others are part of an incarnational or soul family. Now, many of those 11, probably most of those, have chosen different time, space, locations, many in our past. They're not our past lives, they're simultaneous expressions of ourselves. There are 12 simultaneous expressions of one angelic gestalt or angelic collective consciousness. And I think many people will misinterpret these because there's a lot of dimensional blending coming through right now. And so they're not necessarily, they could be, but I'm just saying they're not necessarily our past life, they're simultaneous lives, members of our incarnational or soul family. And since we're getting memory bleeding in to us, we may interpret them as past lives. But I believe most, if not all of us, have come from the future. In my case, from 11th dimensional Lyra. Now, if you've come from 11th dimensional Lyra, to get into incarnation, you have to go through the core of the earth, then one of two stargates which connect or relate to 11th dimensional Lyra. And the two stargates on this planet, 11th dimensional stargates, are the Veil of Pusey, which is where a lot of the stargates are. I can't remember the name of the place right now. It's the Veil of Pusey, where a lot of the crop circles are, and a little island off the coast of Wiltshire, the Vale of Pusey, Wiltshire, where a lot of the crop circles are, probably to help facilitate Stargate transit. They started with the very, very elemental sort of geometrical alphabet or lexicon. They got more and more complex. Crop circles are one of the greatest enduring mysteries of our time, don't you think? And there are still people, I think a couple of guys are walking out of a pub with a plank of wood. Give me a break, you know? Unbelievable. And so this is why when the clock flips to 11:11, don't raise your hand. Even if we can't see you, you see the 11:11 on the clock. A lot of us do. Because when that clock flips to 11:11, something in us is triggered because we've come from the 11th dimension. To get here, we have to have come through the 11th dimensional stargates on the planet, which is England and Ireland. So when that clock flips to 11:11, that gets our attention. If you see 12:12, well, that's something different. You may come from a place called Aramatena in the 12th dimension, and just that word, Aramatena. And the two stargates on this planet that relate to it, 12-dimensional Aramatena, is Montsegur, interestingly enough, Montsegur, France, and Kauai, Hawaii, So Again, throughout the course of Earth human history, there's been lots of hybridization with various interstellar races and creating more varieties of star seeds among the Earth seed root race populations. I'll go into, after about the 1 hour mark, I'll look in the chat again and there, because I know there are some questions that came through. So at various times in Earth human evolution, certain families of these cloister race humans were further genetically enhanced through hybridization with the seed race, out of which the original angelic Tyrannusium human lineage emerged. And the seed race of the original human race, called the Oraphim, Oraphim. Now, the Oraphim human seed race, these were the races that seeded, that genetic material was taken out of these 12 or 24 primary interstellar races. The seed race, the Oraphim human seed race, is a composite genetic code of Syrian Azurites, Syrian blues, from density 2. For all we know, the Krishnas, the blue-skinned Krishnas, may be members of these Syrian blue races from Sirius B, the Azurites. From density 2, that's dimensions 4, 5, and 6, the Lyran Syrian Anuhazi, from density 3, dimensions 7, 8, and 9. These are oversolar archangelic collectives. Lyran Syrian Anuhazi, the Elohai Emerald Order from the 4th density, that's dimensions 10, 11, and 12, the Krystos. And the founders race the Melchizedek Cloister Brennau from density 5, dimensions 13 and 14 and 15. Now that's it. Yep, there we go. That's right, David. Thank you for that. And we'll post that a little bit later also. So the human cloister Oraphim hybrid is known as the Emerald Order Oraphim. In contemporary times, they're referred to as the indigo children. Now, the DNA template of an Emerald Order Oraphim is a 24 to 48 strand potential. If you have that 24 to 48 strand potential and you're an indigo type 1 and you only come through walk-ins, I believe it's the indigo level 1s that come through walk-ins. Walk-in is a very interesting phenomenon. I had one when I was 6 years old. That explains a lot about me. I was hit head on by a car. When you have a contract, you've got to fulfill down here. There will be direct intervention. There isn't always, but there will be. And that car hit me head on, threw me up in the air, threw me all the way down the street. Not a scratch, soft landing. But that was when I started talking about things that my parents, certainly my mother, had no way of comprehending. Wanted to send me to psychiatrists and everything. I mean, it's great having imaginary playmates, but like Angelics, and you know all their names, and all their attributes, right? So that walk-in stayed with me for about 10, 11 years, from about 6 to 16, 17. I got a lot of interesting knowledge so young, but what I didn't get was really preparation to kind of, those are the wonder years where you learn about things like human bonding and that kind of stuff. And a lot of us have experienced what the Greeks call pathos. That not pathos, P-O-T-H-O-S, means a longing. It's a transcendent longing. You feel you're part of something, you can't quite put your finger on it. And we've lived with this, and growing up, we've not been able to share our pain and our joy with like-minded people. Maybe when we got a little bit older, we started drawing people to us like minds and kind of stuff. But it wasn't always easy. When you feel, I can imagine the frustration of some parents when their children will actually confront them saying, "You're not our real parents." I've heard that happen. "So where do you come from?" And they point to the skies. Our parents had no way of understanding who and what we were. We have a little bit more understanding, I'm sure, of who and what we are and what we're here to do. And it would seem that the original purpose of the creation of the human race was to be guardians and custodians of the planetary stargates. I'll actually going to go into something that I wasn't going to do originally. If you give me 1 second here, I think it's very, very important to show this chart here.
Yes.
Yes.
This is real important. This is the opening of the seven seals. This could be St. John's seven seals, the opening of the seven seals. I want to take a group actually next year. I almost did it this year. Take a group to Patmos, where St. John was exiled, to the Greek Isle of Patmos, chowed down on some morning glory seeds and going to the cave of Revelation and have our own visions. We'll talk about maybe that later. This is a very important chart here. These, we believe, are Earth's seven primary vortices. Their opening and closing schedule. We're in the middle of something called a stellar activation cycle. Stellar activation or stellar bridge, where there's been an alignment. Oh, my battery's running low. Hold on. 3D stuff. Okay, here we go. Okay, now, that's better. There's been an alignment of interdimensional stargates and progressively higher and higher dimensional frequency, energy, consciousness. You can't talk about energy frequency without talking about consciousness. If you're an energy healer, God bless you. We all are. We're all healing with energy. We're all healing with frequency. We're all healing with consciousness. Higher and higher dimensional frequency wavelength spectra have been cycling through these interdimensional stargates since about 87, 88. And for these frequencies to come into the earth, to come into us, and we'll talk about some soul contracts a little bit later, the seven primary vortices have to open. If they don't open or don't open properly, the frequencies to these interdimensional stargates are going to come onto the earth, and they're just going to not be able to cycle through the earth grids. It's going to create a lot of molecular compaction. And we've seen that. We've seen that with some earth changes, climatic changes, changes in our DNA, subduction zones, earthquake, volcanoes, weather patterns and stuff like that. So these, according to our information, are Earth's seven primary vortices. Their opening and closing schedule. Okay. Now, the first of the primary vortices, again, they have to open and stay open on time, or else these frequencies are coming in. They're going to hit the planet, have nowhere to go, causing massive compaction. Worst case scenario, full magnetic pole reversal. And we do not want to see that happen. A lot of people think it's Sedona. Sedona is very powerful. But Sedona is a secondary vortex. You ask the Native Americans, and a lot of people in the know, they'll lead you to Sedona but they know it's painted desert. They know it's the paint. They just don't want the painted desert trashed, you know. So painted desert in Arizona started its opening cycle, 87, 88, timed naturally with the harmonic convergence, Arguez, the foundation for the law of time. They knew this was happening. They may not have had certain levels of detail as regards the stellar bridge or stellar activation cycle, but we know it was the painted desert. Second is Jerusalem, Israel. Now they opened for about 4 years. Okay. Jerusalem, Israel. Third, Himalayan mountains in Asia, probably around north of Tibet, the Kunlun mountain range. I'd love to take a group there one day. You have to get some special permission to do it. No private group has ever been allowed access there. You basically have to be dropped in by helicopter and then picked up like a week or 10 days later. I'll tell you, if that trip ever comes off, you're going to have to sign a disclaimer because I don't think not everybody's coming back. You know, so get your business all like squared away before you go on that trip. Any of my trips, probably. I want to take people to places, you know, yes, a lot of people, everybody goes to Giza, everybody goes to Machu Picchu. I want to take people to South Central New Jersey. I want to take people to a place called Ong's Hat. You know about Ong's Hat? Ongshhat. Look it up. Ong's Hat. I'll just leave that just hanging for a minute. So you don't have to go halfway around the world. Let's go to Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy. Fourth was Giza, Egypt, started its opening cycle around the 1st of 2000. That's when the stellar bridge really grounded. There's no turning back now. Machu Picchu, the fifth vortex, timed with that Venus transit of 2004. And now these primary vortices have there are paired sites on the planet. The site, interestingly enough, that's paired with Machu Picchu is the Vatican in Rome. And we know that on that weekend of the Venus transit in 2004, Bush, many of his top advisors, Bilderbergers, Club of Rome, whatever have you, were meeting outside of Rome. We postulate that they were pulsing magnetic pulses from the Vatican or outside the Vatican into Machu Picchu so it wouldn't open properly. Because bad things can happen when these don't open properly. 6 is the Caucasus Mountains in Russia. 7th, Andes, Lake Titicaca. Now, as you read here, the stellar bridge, I guess, alignment of interdimensional stargates, it's been progressively infusing Earth with higher dimensional wave spectra. Actually, more than that, actually consciousness, causing the frequency seals. The seals have to be released, like opening a present, and then the primary vortex open. As each vortex opens, the dimensional wave spectra associated with that vortex begins running through Earth's electromagnetic fields and our bodies. This is what's been causing this time acceleration, Jonathan, I'm going to admit, causing this particle pulsation rhythm of the planet to accelerate. And this is what's creating these biophysical time accelerations. And dimensional blending, where we're getting a lot of consciousness blending in that some of us are mistaking as our past lives, simultaneous soul family, incarnational family identities. In areas of Earth's electromagnetic fields and our personal electromagnetic fields that are out of balance, tectonic cracking, fissures cracking in our ores can happen. This is what happens. Now, interestingly enough, the last of these vortices to open is the first to close. So this could be the injunction, will the first be the last? Although St. John, for all we know, could have been talking about the papal succession, the end of the male succession, maybe the beginning of the female. Says, I do believe, just jumping ahead a little bit, and probably this would be a good one for next year, really getting into some of the detail about Mary Magdalene and her place in all this, and all the Magdalens and the circles of Marys and stuff they were doing to try to help the planet. The first of these, I believe that Mary Magdalene is still alive. I believe she's in southern France in a cave system. I believe she's in a protective hyperdimensional wave field that some call the Golden Fleece. That when there's enough love manifested on the earth, she's the original Sleeping Beauty. She will wake up, she will walk to Rome, and the Pope will give her the keys to the Holy See. Wouldn't that be nice if that happened that way? We'll see. Because you
Absolutely.
remember all the ways they tried to awaken Sleeping Beauty? I wanted, no, I was thinking, you want this for the last half an hour, I can just jabber on, but I want it to be more conversational. So maybe for the last 90 minutes, we can talk more conversationally, except I really want to get through some of this here, just to finish this little bit here. Now, the first,
please go ahead and finish, because I know people are just
Okay.
wrapped with attention. So we'll get to questions, and if we need to go, whatever you want to do.
The last of these vortices the last to open is the first to close. Now you see that Titicaca started, and just as they needed to open on time and stay open, they need to close on time, or else more energy than the planet can handle will come in, and the same kind of things can happen. Worst case scenario, full magnetic pole reversal. The one that's just finished its closing cycle now is Lake Titicaca, finished its closing cycle in 2022. Here's the thing. The next one that's supposed to finish its closing cycle in 2025, the epicenter may be in the Caucasus, but guess where all the secondary vortices are that relate to this vortice? Can you guess?
Ukraine?
That's right. All over the Ukraine. This war has to end. This war has to end soon. this vortex has to close properly. If it doesn't, all hell can break loose. And this is when you look at Earth conflicts, you got to look at the higher dimensional conflicts, of which Earth has always been a staging ground for eons and eons and eons. And even if it closes properly, the next one that's supposed to close is in Peru. You're going to see a lot of instability in South America. You already do. Even if that closes properly, the next one is Giza, Egypt. You know what's going on in the Middle East. If that works, then you've got the Tibet-China scenario. And even if that closes properly, then you've got Jerusalem. You know, Jerusalem has a lot to do with the emotional body of the planet. And then even if that works, and hopefully it will, then you got the painted desert in Arizona. And I remember, don't you remember a while back, people were coming up with psychics, clairvoyants, with all these different maps of the earth, how America was going to be broken up into all these districts and stuff like that. Well, this is a very interesting one, but right now, the one that's got to close is the Russian-Ukrainian vortex. So jumping ahead a little bit, just for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go for questions and a little more conversational. And then I want to end with a beautiful little meditation. Okay. Since we're talking about the cosmic Christos here, it's important to understand that it's going to be a collective epiphany. Well, I'm sorry, go back to what was that last question on the chat? Why is the Earth the staging ground for these interdimensional conflicts? Answer is really easy to that one, because Earth has its own set of stargates. If you have control of Earth's stargates, you can access the interdimensional stargates. So if your agenda is pro-human or digressive, you want control of the stargates, the vortices on the planet. Pretty simple. And that's why Earth has always been a staging ground for interdimensional conflicts. It's been for possession, control of the stargates. So it's going to be a collective epiphany to realize that our human genetic code is really more diverse than we suppose. And all of us are directly related to specific stellar races, right? And it's been those stellar races that have intentionally guided and influenced the direction of Earth human evolution, primarily through covert means since our very, very beginnings. The human genetic code, remember, our lineage began with the ancient Turanosium race, the original angelic immortal human race. The original human race is an immortal human race. Immortal. 560 million years ago. The Turanosium strain was first seeded on Earth 25 million years ago, but since then, we've been hybridized, mutated, mixed, remixed with a lot of divergent interstellar races. The human gene code right now presently is a mess, is an intergalactic mess of polarity and balance. And that's going to manifest as biophysical, psychoperceptual imbalances, mutations. We're functioning, to make a long story short, far short of our true genetic potential, which was originally contained within a very highly ordered 12-strand DNA pattern. Since our original seeding on planet Earth, the human race has been an extension, right, of our interstellar relatives. And through us, these conflicting agendas of the elder star kin have been the literal foundations upon which our civilized cultures are built. So again, our gene code continues to be manipulated through various calculated hybridization practices. Now, the healing of humanity and the real meaning of Christ consciousness, it's the revelation of the truth of our interstellar heritage, right? Don't we come in? Aren't these the most profound questions we ask ourselves, Noel, right? Who are we? Where do we come from? What's our purpose here? Well, the revelation of the truth of our interstellar heritage, that's going to help us understand the true hidden forces that have worked behind the scenes all along, keeping our civilization warring, right? Divided, hate-filled, frightened. Humans of all DNA substrands, we've been kept lying to a large extent to their true nature and origin. Thanks to Iesha, other speakers that have been taught to translate the information from these Dora-Teura plates, these things are coming back to us. The healing of the intergalactic collective is going to come through, again, understanding the common core of creation, out of which all races have emerged, right? The collective healing of the extraterrestrial, the meta, the ultra-terrestrial races, and the earthly races are going to come through a state of cognition that we know is Christ consciousness. And that's a state of 12-dimensional awareness and electromagnetic polarity and balance that comes to us, that will come to us, that's meant to come to us through the full activation of our 12-strand, what's called the diamond sun silicate matrix. So Christ consciousness, understand, is not only a concept, it's a bioenergetic phenomenon. And that's going to take place through progressive embodiment of the higher dimensions of our personal identity. The Krystos, again, are collective fields of conscious, liquid light, free matter, dimensions of 10, 11, and 12. These are the dimensions through which all beings manifest in the lower worlds of time. Represents the point of unity, Lyra, the cradle of Lyra, between all interstellar races. It's the common pre-matter identity form shared by all manifest beings. And although there are many diverse races of biology and consciousness within the dimensionalized systems of time, each of these races emerged through a common seed and gestalt of consciousness, the Krystos. So in terms of the stellar drama, the Krystos represents the reality fields of dimensions 10, 11, 12, which correspond to the galactic coordinates of the Lyran star systems, the Lyran star systems. So it was the population of our local time matrix began a long time ago, but within the Lyran star systems. Through a singular race of pre-matter, liquid light beings collectively called the Lyran founders races. So the codes of Lyra that came from the biological imprints of all of the interstellar races, we call them the codes of Lyra, and they're carried in the human DNA. This is our great gift. And once activated, will allow the body to experience full transmutation and ascension. First in stages as we build the hyperdimensional Merkaba, trans-dimensional Akasha Merkaba Silver Sanctum vehicle. And so I don't forget, I'll put my email in the chat, okay? If anybody wants to go further with this, I do offer personal one-on-one mentorships, group mentorship programs. They're absolutely wonderful. So the Lyran star system is known as the cradle of Lyra. Remember, Rockabye Baby on the treetop? When the wind blows, the cradle of Lyra or Lyra will rock. When the bough or the seal breaks, the cradle will fall and down will come baby, cradle and all. So even though we fall into the bottom of the tree, we still carry the imprint of the cradle of Lyra within us, which is that 12-strand DNA, which will allow us progressive full bodily transmutation and ascension. This is the gift. This is the potential that has existed within us as individuals and us as a race to take our place among the angelics, not just as allies, everyone, but as equals. And if people write to me, I will send you a beautiful handout about soul contracts, like flame holders. A lot of us know we're here to do something, hold the flame, hold the peace, hold the place, this and that. Well, there are very specific contracts that we've come to fulfill. And a lot of us, and the reason that we're so sought after by both sides and tried to be seduced by both sides is because a lot of us have the ability to plug directly into the planetary stargates, to have conscious control over the operation and manipulation of the stargates. We're here for very, very important reasons. And the sooner we begin to understand, the memory is within us of who we are, where we come from. There's intrinsic divinity within all of us. And certainly we learn the power of forgiveness and gratitude and the true attitudes and responsibilities of spiritual mastery and really come into a state of grace. Steiner said it best, in moments of grace, we remember. And our movement is always towards, please remember, our movement is always towards a state of grace. We're here to be conscious co-creators with Source. So the next expansion, the next great breath of the great Mother will have the memory of our trip through time with it. We're all feathers in each other's wings. You know, we're all here to do this together. And co-creators, these are the strange attractors that bring us together. Not everybody hears it. Not everybody can hear it now. You can lead a horse to water. But through co-creators convergence, through groups like this, we find our common reasons for being. And we've asked to be here at this time. So I guess now would be a good time. I guess there were some questions that I missed. And I'll just end with a beautiful little invocation at the end. But we have about 20 minutes or so, right? That we can
Absolutely.
take
And
questions or comments. And so again, get in touch with me if you want to explore this further with sessions or Book of Fate readings. Oh, I love to do those. And or personal or semi-private mentorships. Let me know what's going on with you guys. Okay? So questions, I'll go into the chat here. Oh my God, there's lots of questions here.
well, there's a lot of questions. And David, did you want to jump in here? I know that you are very familiar with the topic.
Well, just that I read all of Voyagers 1 and I tried to get into Voyagers 2. It was too hard. I couldn't understand it. I stopped. But what I did read and what I did think I get, Phil was talking about, so it really spiked my interest. And I don't know where to go or what to ask. I'm gonna probably I'm gonna email you, Phil, and ask
Okay.
about your fee schedule and see about, getting a little more into it. But I have a million questions, but I'll let other people ask something.
Voyagers 1, the sleeping up. Voyagers 2, the secrets of a mentee. That's a tough one to get through. You just have to read it and reread it and reread it. And the more that you do read it, what a lot of people don't realize is that all language, whether it's written, spoken, sung, chanted, toned, is going to convert into electrical impulse. When you just even read this information, it's going to convert into electrical impulse, which is a mathematical program, which is going to open all these gates of light within us to receive information, to illuminate. Remember, Jesus, when he spoke of Mary Magdalene, all the Marys had the effulgence of light. They had mastered forgiveness and gratitude and compassion and mercy. Remember Emoto's crystals, the most beautiful crystals, the ones that hold the most and radiate the most light, is when you project thoughts, even thoughts of forgiveness and gratitude. So imagine what happens if you become the living embodiments of these higher spiritual attitudes and responsibilities. Think of it. Every crystal and microcrystal in your body will be able to hold and radiate that light. That's when you become a presence healer. That's when you walk the earth and you heal by your presence alone. And all the Marys, all the circles, a lot of people are familiar with James Twyman, Emissary of Light. He actually got to see the workings of a group of angelic humans actually trying to bring peace to the planet. Same as Arthur and his knights. Same as the Circle of Marys. I'm still convinced after all these years that Jesus didn't want the guys. He wanted the women. He wanted their wives, but he had to get the men to bring their wives along. You read the Pistis Sophia, and they were asking all these questions and they can't understand the answers. And Mary has to be the intercessor. She has to be the one to explain all the answers to the disciples. A very complex relationship Mary had. And the reason that she could do what she could, and all the Marys and all the Magdalenes, and the reason that they were chosen to be these sacred priestesses, because they were Benjaminite women. The other tribes of Israel, the tribe of Benjamin, they're the abominations. Why? Because the Benjamin women, especially, and there are clusters of them in Nazareth and Galilee, they were the result of the hybridization, or really the rape of the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, and human females. But the ones that survived had very, very special genetic configurations because they were part angelic. So their genetic code was expanded to the point where they could create very special secretions. They were the well of the living waters. They were the grail maidens. They were the revealing vehicles. And when they were released from their custodian, their what's it called when you have when you go on a date, chaperones. When these women were chosen to be temple priestesses, they were chaperoned by 7 priests. They were called the 7 demon priests before they were ready chosen to be married. So when Mary Magdalene was exorcised of these 7 demons, no, she was released from the custodialship of these 7 demon priests that were chaperones, custodians for them while they were being trained to be temple priestesses. So there's a lot that's not known about the true relationship of Mary and Jesus, who the Christs were with the disciples and everything. I'm going through the chats. I'm trying to do this really. The meek will inherit the earth. Meek, I believe, is an acronym. Me-ek, Melchizedek, because we are the last 2 of the root races to incarnate on the earth to complete the full genetic potential of the original angelic human race, Melchizedek's. So the earth is our inheritance. The earth is our legacy. And we have to be able to understand why we're here. The memory is in our DNA, but really the only thing that blocks the DNA is unresolved karma, and we call the miasmic blueprint. But I will tell you, I think the most powerful energies or consciousness that can heal all karma is forgiveness and gratitude. It's in the Pistis Sophia. Forgiveness has never been about blame. It's forgiving. What do you have to let go or clear to be a clear channel for grace to come into this world? And so how do you forgive? You apologize. It's really pretty simple when you think about it. Apology comes from the old word apollo, which means not many. Apollo. So when you apologize, you are reaffirming oneness. And when you reach a critical mass of consciousness where you are reaffirming oneness, then you will be the living embodiment of forgiveness. And again, every crystal and microcrystal in your body will hold and radiate that light. You won't need a certification in Reiki. You will be a presence healer. You will just illuminate just by walking the planet, right? So the earth is our inheritance, Glastonbury. Mind-blowing. Are there still stargates on Earth now? Yes. And all these interdimensional conflicts that manifest on the Earth, it's been for one primary reason, to be in control of the Earth stargates, because the Earth stargates have access to the interdimensional stargates, especially to one particular 8th dimensional stargate that's in the Orion system, which is the metagalactic core for consciousness to come into a time matrix and expand out of a time matrix into non-dimensionalized primal sound vibration or ascended mastery. You've got to go through the 8th dimensional metagalactic core. So if you have control of the Earth stargates, you can control who goes in and out of time, which is what many of these digressive races want, to trap us in time, because they are trapped in time because of the decisions they made. Okay.
Bill, I had a question about
Yeah.
the stargates. If they don't open and close like they're supposed to, like you said, Bush was there in 2004. What do we know about how that impacted the Stargate?
I'm sorry again. I'm sorry. I got distracted. David, yes, I was formerly married to her. Okay.
Oh,
Formerly.
sorry about that.
Okay,
Okay,
well, I'm sorry.
gotcha.
What was that, Noel? I mean, yeah. What was that again?
I was asking about the opening and closing of the Stargates.
Ah, yeah.
So what if they don't open or don't close like they're supposed to? And, you said Bush and fellows were there outside the Vatican, I think in 2004. How did that impact it?
Well, that impacted, you saw a lot of, there's never been one of these vortices that's opened properly without some kind of interruption or intervention, which is where, when you have these energies compacting the earth and they reach, blocks, they just build and build. And so the earth has to crack literally to allow the energy to keep moving. But that creates a lot of the earthquake and volcanic activity, earth changes, climatic changes. So when they don't open properly, you get the poles start to move to balance the electromagnetic imbalances. It happens in our bodies too. Don't a lot of us feel besides ourselves? A lot of stuff is happening. Dimensional bleed through, you know, but we seem to be the most present of our incarnational or soul family. We can bring them up. A lot of people, fortunately, for the ascension, they just have to be good, honest, loving, good people. We come in usually the first team, but we can host people into ascension. If we get our act together, those that we hold dear, those that are related to us genetically or in terms of star families, can ascend with us. So most people, I believe, all they really need to do is just to be good, honorable people, but they have to clear karma. And our simultaneous incarnations can affect us. We can affect them too. There's a lot of healing we can do when we work on ourselves, and healing, forgiveness, gratitude. Wallace Wattles, remember The Science of Getting Rich? Success through creative thought. This is one of the source materials for The Secret, but nobody ever talks about the fact that gratitude, yes, it's giving thanks, but gratitude is a magnetic force that unites your brain and your solar plexus together in the heart space. Even in the Master Key, Charles Haanel, the Master Key Lesson 1, the great secret of life is in the coordination of two special centers, the brain and the solar plexus, and gratitude brings them together. Nobody is teaching, and nobody out there that I know of is teaching the magic of the solar plexus. Please email me and I will send you a link to a PDF scanned copy of a little pamphlet that was written in 1918 called The Solar Plexus or the Abdominal Brain. You know how they talk about to manifest, you have to feel it? Well, the physical expression of our emotions are controlled by the solar plexus. If you want to access the full spectrum of your emotions and the gates of the subconscious and changing your state, you have to work through the solar plexus to access the full spectrum and the depth of emotions that's required to manifest it. The solar plexus always was the key. Always was the key. And you can get into a conscious relationship with your solar plexus, so much so that you can actually get to the point where you can ask it what you want or tell it what you want, and it will do whatever rewiring is necessary to manifest that for you, especially if it's in a Christos or Christed manner. Janice Princeton, well, Ong's Hat is a place where there's a book called Ong's Hat, Sky Books, Peter Moon, along with Joseph Metheny. It's the incunabula. The story is that
I wish I had known it when I lived there for 15 years. You never went.
Ong's Hat is not even on maps now of New Jersey. It's just an intersection where there used to be a diner. But Princeton scientists and other scientists from the what's it called?
Plasma lab.
Yeah, from Princeton and all other places, they were trying to build stargates and construct stargates in Ong's Hat. That's a place I want to take a group of people. So you don't have to go halfway around the world. Go back to Jersey. Let's see. That's why I'm here. A lot of us are related to Mary Magdalene. Why? Because a lot of us are incarnates of called the Magi Arthurian Grail lines, directly or indirectly related genetically by blood to Mary Magdalene or other Marys or other Magdalens. Absolutely, positively. And the memories in the blood, the memories in the water, the memories in the lymph. And this is why it's not just enough to drink enough water, structure the water, pray over the water. You want to get the structured water? Pray. We have a lot of different blessings in our mentorship programs. We teach some, again, it's really, okay, and I want to end with the invocation of the Maharata, but are there a couple more?
Yeah, there was another question.
Email me with any questions. Oh, the
Sheila had
seven
a
doors.
question.
Awakening Sleeping Beauty. That's a good one. You should read the original Sleeping Beauty. She was raped, a lot of these fairy tales, they really had to be sort of tempered and they had to be edited. They were really, some of them were really pretty powerful. But again, a lot of this information was passed down to us through fairy tales, through folk tales. You explore a lot of these fairy tales, folk tales, legends, and what you see is explanations of the mechanics of how stargates work, the mechanics of ascension, or genetic potentials, that it was the safest way to transmit it through fairy tales. Yeah. So awakening of the sleeping beauty is awakening of the beauty that always lies within us. There is such beauty within us, but it has to be awakened. And you don't have to go past the Iroquois Confederacy and those legends that before the Christ comes, the peacemaker comes. So you have to make peace with yourself first. How do you do that? Forgiveness and gratitude for all the gifts of spirit, all the gifts, talents, and blessings from this life, previous lives, future lives are coming into us now to be of sincere and dedicated service. And isn't that what true success really ultimately is about? Being of really true and dedicated and sincere service. This is why we have to get our mental thoughts and intentions into the planetary core. And we have to, there's a thin tissue, there's a lens within our pineal glands, which is our third eye, that focuses our mental thoughts into the planetary core, into an energy form that just happens to look like a silver cup, like a holy grail cup. There's so much in this. I know, I just, my head's exploding. How is Earth a staging ground for interdimensional galactic conflicts? Earth is when there was a fall of the original angelic planet in the fifth dimension, part of its morphogenetic field, it's a long story, was blown off, bonded with Earth. Earth is very special because Earth has very special sets, again, of stargates that link it with the interdimensional stargates. That's why whenever there's a stellar activation cycle, an ascension cycle, everybody comes here. This is where the party is, because they know that through Earth stargates and vortices and through us, you don't hear a lot about abductions anymore. Well, I shouldn't get into that. Well, abductees have certain genetic configurations. A lot of us, and a lot of us just watching and listening in now, have genetic configurations that allow, like I said before, to actually hold the Earth steady during these stellar activation cycle. We're placeholders or flame holders we can directly plug into the planetary grids. It's our contracts. We just need to remember the memories in our DNA. And really the only thing that's blocking our memory is unresolved karma. We've got to also understand, well, karma has never been about blame. And so you give apology. You reaffirm oneness, and the Pisces Sophia, with progressive apology, the soul is rendered innocent of all intensifications of karma, and you are placed in a position of never having been separated from the one. And that's right from the Pisces Sophia. Then the translation by the Hurtaks, Doctors J.J. and Desiree Hurtak. Pisces Sophia is very difficult to read without a good translation and a commentary. So I would recommend going to AFFS.org, Academy for Future Science, and ordering that translation, the commentary by Doctors J.J. and Desiree Hurtak of course, the Book of Knowledge, Keys of Enoch, and also the Pisces Sophia. We have a program that I think is pretty darn good.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Sheila
I guess
had a
that's,
question.
yeah.
Can you
Okay. Go
describe the
ahead.
groups of dimensions 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? Is there a direct relation, the strands of DNA?
Absolutely. Each dimension, each strand of DNA, each double helix is programmed to process one dimension, one frequency band. So our evolution is progressively activating the strands of DNA that are non-operational. Now, because we have the first three strands operational, although there are defects in them, we have the first, second, and third subharmonic of all the higher strands. Have you ever noticed now that a lot of channelers are beginning to sound very similar? That's because, it's a little, some Asiatic, some Native American, this and that. I can't do it personally, but it's because the first languages we're going to channel are the ones that are closest to us genetically. Okay, I'll show this real fast. Okay, this gives it, if I can share again,
Sure.
real quick. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, it's coming up. There you go.
Okay, this is a 15-dimensional time matrix. Okay, 15 dimensions, 5 3-dimensional universes, harmonic universes, 1, 2, 3, where we are now, 4, 5, and 6, angelic soul matrix, 7, 8, and 9, lower akasha, oversouls, archangelics, harmonic universe 4, the Christ avatars, Buddha's Bodhi. Interestingly enough, the Buddha mind, 11th dimensional consciousness, Christ mind, 10th dimensional consciousness. So it's no mystery to me, to us, why he went to the Middle, Near East, Far East to continue the evolution of his soul, the education of his soul. Dimensions 13 and 14 and 15, the Kirashe, the Branau Rishi, the founders races in our time matrix. So you can ask, where do you go when you're a fully embodied Rishi? Where to go next? Well, you drop some of your frequency, you go back through the 8th dimensional metagalactic core, and you expand into 3 very special levels of non-dimensionalized primal sound vibration, the 3 levels of ascended mastery. The violet flame level, we call the triadic. The polaric, the goal, and most of the masters we're familiar with are the violet flame masters, maybe a couple of gold, Hilarion, maybe a couple of others. And then the final expansion into ascended mastery, the blue, green, or emerald level. And that's not even full enlightenment. There's still a couple of expansions, and then you're one with source again. And then what happens? You go back into dimensionalization and fragmentation as God's holy sparks. This is the paradox, isn't it? Why would something that's a total unity fragment itself? This is the game. Man is essentially a game player. Remember that now I'm rambling. Now, remember that Star Trek episode where they hijack starships and they train them as gladiators? They know all the cosmic answers, and the only thing they don't know is the potential outcomes of gladiatorial combats. Well, first of all, it shows you how far they've evolved. But again, when you know all the answers, the only way they get happy is to bet imaginary money on these gladiatorial combats. Man is essentially a game player, the Olympians playing chess with mortals. I mean, this is seemed to be the way it is. These are the cosmic questions. But again, the more we evolve, the more we expand, the more we will know who we are. The answer's already in our DNA. Our DNA is activating naturally during these stellar bridge, stellar activation cycles. And the only thing that's blocking it is karma, our self-created karma, our karma we've inherited. And I will always believe that forgiveness and gratitude are the most powerful forms of consciousness that can heal all karma. To be the living embodiment of these great gifts given to us. And beauty, yeah, beauty will save the world. You're right, there is such beauty within us that who said that it's really what we're fearful of is our own illumination. It's our own power, right? That frightens us. But power used, the right use of will and the right use of power, Spider-Man, Stan Lee, these were all initiates, And with more power comes more responsibility. This is why we're here, Yeah, Morse and Diane Kelly, they have a wonderful commentary on the Pistis Sophia. Pistis Sophia is an incredible document. There's no doubt about it. What else? I guess that's it for the questions, right? So in these last couple of minutes, I just want to thank you again, Noel and Bob. Thank you again for having me. I guess I made up for the last one.
I'm going
Really,
to
get in touch with me. I'll send you some great gifts. I'll send you, if you don't have it already, the PDF scanned copy of the solar plexus pamphlet. That and that alone is worth its weight in root canal surgery. I mean, it's more valuable than gold these days. And and the handout from a long time ago about our soul contracts, because that's going to spark a lot of memory. And together we spark a lot of our memory. But you don't hear a lot about abductions anymore because most of abductees had a recessive gene in their gene code, which many of the digressive races can use for mind control. What I think is that they've finally succeeded or getting close to synthesizing it. And in the future, if not already, they may put into vaccines and whatnot. It's a complex story. There are many, many races involved, and we don't necessarily have to get too much into that, but just acknowledge that there were races that have simply forgot their connection with the Christos, are not able to evolve through the metagalactic core. And we're here to help them remember. And you're right, it is about beauty and it is about love. Ultimately, there's nothing more powerful that I know of that can help us, that to serve us evolve. And I think we're all helping each other do that
Thank you, Phil.
through events like this, through co-creating convergence. We all want to be conscious co-creators with Source and bring that memory of our experience in time with us. It's amazing. It's just it's an amazing time to be here and to be conscious of why we're here. You know,
You mentioned that gratitude is a magnetic force. That's really, I mean, I'm sure it's true, but it's a wonderful way to explain it because it is extremely, extremely powerful.
I recommend the Master Key, 24 weeks, the original Master Key course, Charles Haanel, Haanel, 24 weeks, 24 lessons that teaches us to control our thoughts. I think a lot of very well-intentioned systems of personal development, spiritual evolution fail because we're not able to control our thoughts. Yeah, Haanel, Charles Haanel. When you come out the other side of that 24-week program, and just in even lesson 1, they talk about the solar plexus and how important it is. You know?
But did you want to close with a meditation? You said, or
Yes.
is your voice?
No, I got it
okay.
here. Okay. It's the
Wonderful.
invocation of the Maharata. It's an invocation called the Ma'a Bivectus Invoki. It's a creation decree invocation. All of us now declaring in unity our Dimension 12 Christos avatar Maharata self-identity. I will do the English and then I will sing it in its original angelic language. So you can repeat this mentally or just like a whisper, like a prayer. Okay? 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Sorry. From this still point of my wholeness, in manifest decision, I decree in sovereign knowing, here expressed at my command, a lovingly stated absolute intention, the divine will and intention of the one self that is one God. I, as Dimension 12, Christos Avatar Self, invoke by divine loving command now, by the power of the universal Christos, the Dimension 12 divine Christos blueprint, past, present, future. Now the divine sea of liquid light anchors in the moment, absolutely now established, always and forever, in eternal, abiding, reverent love of the eternal All One. Blessed be all embracing, given forth from the still point of eternal peace, spoken as it is stated, as so it is done, all-embracing pillar of first cause light. I, as this expression now, in the name of the Melchizedek Cloister, Emerald Order Iani, Holy Order of the Unisai, Sacred House of One, Maharata Kumbai Vectus, say your names. In Evo Kaiuni Bleum by Vecti, Ma'a by Vecti, un ore ornamur, Iste un ta isa trajahera, Pitateum, Ashelon thaija intadue, Shaddai urea kumtan, Shaddai urea kumtan, Shaddai urea kumtan. Thank you. And also if you want, the only reading I do is a reading from this oracle called the Book of Faith. And I almost never get around to talking about it. And I won't tonight, but if you want more information about it, write to me, ask me. I've done hundreds of these readings and they're all amazing. And I owe you too a reading. I think I promised you a long time ago. So again,
Oh, awesome.
Thank you, everybody, David, Janice, everybody who's on with us now.
Thank you.
Thanks
you
again
so
for this
much, Phil.
opportunity. It's really,
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Phil.
so again, thank you so much. Doing what you're meant to do, at least at any given moment in time, like you guys, like a lot of us out there, is the most wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yes.
It
To
is
know why you're
indeed.
here and doing it to the best of our ability. You know, I love you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you again
Thank you.
so
Love
much.
you, and we'll have you back next
Thank you.
year.
Much love.
That'd be awesome.